let's get this thing started. We only got a couple minutes. That way I can get people that want to join.
Usually Lexi's on by now. There's John.
Buck. Okay, so let's go to
John Buck's our new Webster University
Oh, okay.
representative.
Hello there.
Hey, John.
Hello, John.
Good to see you.
You too.
Yes.
As I understand, you and
Assistant
Captain
attendee.
Perks got smart together at Webster University.
I can only speak for myself.
Thanks, John.
I'm sure I got smarter. I don't know about him.
Yeah, you're fine. I'll just switch you to an attendee. So, bye-bye. And Lexi O'Brien is promoted to a panelist. Should be. Yes. Recording, so we've got 4 now.
We can't count me as a form.
Nope.
No, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, Lexi and John.
Oh, okay.
We need one more
Need
for a
one more for
quorum,
a
so
No,
Centron can't make it.
no, I'm trying to think of the last.
All right, and Jillian McCoy, I'm going to demote her to an attendee. She doesn't need to be, that's Lieutenant McCoy, but she doesn't need to be a panelist. She's just watching.
Paul Dietrich is hopefully the 5th.
Yes, Paul, that's what I was trying to think of.
Okay. So John, what's your role now up at Webster U? You assistant dean or dean now or something? And
Dean of Students now.
all right.
Yep.
I know I was telling Kevin, we were in a master's program 20 years ago together.
Oh my God, that long ago?
It's been that long. We graduated in 05, maybe?
5 or 6. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
So we started together in somewhere around 01.
Yeah.
Working on it and been a minute.
Something like that.
Lexi and John, I can email you guys a copy of this tomorrow, but it won't be part of the public record because it's an internal policy and obviously we don't want, it's active, how we respond to active shooters, and we don't want active shooters to.
Know how we
You
respond.
know, it's not necessarily like the game plan.
Here's the plan.
Right.
Yeah, so for obvious reasons, it won't be.
Were the doors unlocked so anybody can come?
Yeah,
side door, not the
Side,
front.
okay. Side, that's also what they
That's
had.
how we come in through the parking lot anyway.
I was checking all of them so I can answer that question for you.
We'll wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah. And I don't see anybody else logging on remotely, so
Problem with the summer.
it is the summer. Yes. The couple organizations I'm in, law enforcement of Greater St. Louis officials, we take June, July, and August off.
Yeah.
Because we just don't get attendees and
You can't do that anymore because we are required to have 10 meetings,
10, right,
Oh,
and we take it off Christmas.
right.
I kind of disagree with that change a bit, but
Yeah,
this is a commission.
that was already in the ordinance at the time. Did somebody put that in?
so what happens in this situation where you don't have a quorum? Does that not
You
count as
still
part of
met.
10?
still
No,
met.
Still
Still
met.
met.
So that counts.
The
Right.
effort was made.
We have something
Can't
made,
vote on
but yeah,
it.
just can't
Can't vote on
vote. They don't have a
Yeah.
form, so you just can't.
The only thing we have to vote on is review and approval of the minutes.
Minutes from the last one, which you just
So-
postpone that to the next meeting.
Second,
Right,
yeah.
that'll work.
Right.
That get tabled to the next meeting.
Yeah, makes sense.
Eric sometimes pops on.
Yeah, he might pop on later. No, we can
Oh,
do the
yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
talk about tomorrow night.
Yeah. I
While
can,
we're waiting, could we maybe, I don't know everyone here at the table, I don't think. I mean, John, we've met via email, but. could
Right,
we
thank you
go
for the help.
around?
Sure. John Buck's a new member. John, you wanted to kind of, I mean, we do this during the meeting, but we can go ahead and do it now since we're waiting. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the PCEB.
I'm John Buck, and my role at the university is Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. So I oversee most of the student life areas, to include health services, counseling services, housing, campus programming, things like that. I've been at the university for 22 years, as long as I've been in Webster Groves. I've had a lot of interaction with Webster Groves Police and EMS and fire over the course of my career, because my role really is pretty central to any kind of emergency response or crisis situation that we have with students, especially at 2 a.m. And so I work with Greg and a lot of other officers in the past. So the chancellor asked me if I'd have interest in working with this board. I thought it'd be great, any kind of perspective I can lend. But I think to kind of understand what this board can do in context and part of, how the university and this this agency overlaps and works together, I think is anything to kind of enhance that's going to be a good thing. And just by way of introduction too, I did do my doctoral work at Webster, and my research was on decision making during crisis situations on college campuses. So I've had a lot of interest in emergency response and a lot of experiences with folks like Greg and others. So a lot of interest in kind of being part of the board, and hopefully I could do my job, contribute and help out as much as I can.
Well, good. Welcome.
Welcome, John.
So, Lexi, do you know Dr. Gresh? Scott?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you did. And then Emerson, Emerson.
Yeah.
So, and do you know Captain Perks?
I think I've seen you in a Zoom, but I don't know if we've met in a small group like this.
Sure, not a problem. So I'm Captain Greg Perks. I've been with the police department. I'll celebrate my 25th anniversary this October. I've done, in those 25 years, I've worked a variety of roles for the PD and worked my way up the ranks. I'm currently, currently the commander of our Criminal Investigations and Support Services Division. So I have our detective bureau, our community policing unit, traffic unit, school resource officers, prisoner conveyance, records department, all of that falls under my command. And then I get the pleasure of doing these kinds of things now, which I enjoy. And I've met all these gentlemen throughout my years here and doing these kinds of things. And so now I'm happy to meet you. So a pleasure. Thank you.
Lexi, I think you might have met Captain Perks at the hot dog event down at Old Community. He was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
we were playing washers.
Yes. And letting the kids beat us, allegedly.
Yeah.
John, for your benefit, my name's Kevin Sombard. I've been on the board since it started, since this commission or the board actually started. I was the first board chair and then relinquished that role to try to spread out the leadership around the group.
Sure.
And my term technically has expired, so I need to reinstate or talk to someone to do that at this point. I've been a Webster Groves resident since 1988, so I've been around quite a while. I grew up in politics with my father, who was a state representative, so I've been around government for a long time, and I thought, well, it was time for me to get involved in the city that I like to that I love to live in. So and I had the skill set and the interest, so that's pretty much why I'm here. And I think it's always good that the community and our police department have effective communication, and that's what this is all about. So
Great. Yeah. Good to meet you.
Scott.
yeah, John, I'm Scott Gresh. I'm the physician representative, or it's, I guess, a healthcare professional representative. Since the beginning, I've been part of the board when we were trying to figure out what the role of the board should be. and trying to create this. And I think we're starting to get some momentum moving forward. I'm happy about that. My father, before he was a prison warden, was a police officer. And I grew up around the police department through him. So I had a natural interest in this work as well.
Sure. Good to meet you. Thanks.
Thanks.
My name is Emerson Smith. I'm the city council liaison to the PCEB.
Good to meet you.
And I'm Lexi O'Brien. John, like you, I'm a longtime university employee, but I work at WashU.
Oh, do you?
There for 31 years now, and I'm in marketing
Okay.
and communications. And I think my background in communications is really what I hope can be helpful. But I just generally have an interest in community policing. And I guess I got interested. I don't really have any family connections with law enforcement. I came at more from a standpoint of reading in the news and sadly learning, a lot of the bad press and trying to understand, what goes into this whole dynamic and wanting to be involved in my local community, and to learn more as well.
Yeah, great. Good to meet you. Thanks for your help with the link.
Lexi's a doer too.
She's been great.
She's been great since she started. She likes to keep us moving, and she's a jump in both feet and get things done. So we really like that.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take the roll so that we know that how many are here. So John Buck is present. Dr. Scott Gresh is present. Kevin Sombard is present. Lexi O'Brien is present. Those are the 4 voting members. The council liaison is Emerson Smith, and then Captain Greg Perks is sitting in for Dale Curtis as the police liaison. That being said, we needed 5. Now that we have a full board, we need 5 to have a quorum. Since we do not have a quorum, I will not be able to put the meeting minutes up for a vote. But what I would like to do is continue on to the next item to discuss, which is an update and a review of the policies and operating procedures, including any proactive preventative measures that the Webster Groves Police Department takes for active shooter events. That's in light of the terrible tragedy in Uvalde, Texas. So, Captain Perks.
Absolutely, Kevin. So just so everybody is aware, and you can share this with the non-attending members if you would, please. The police department has had an ongoing active shooter engagement role since about 2011. Countywide need was seen at that point, and the officers started training and practicing in active shooter response for any type of situation. In 2014, we adopted our first official policy, which I know Lexi and John, you two will be emailed a copy of it as well, and you guys have a copy of it. The policy is still in place. It does have annual review. And we continue to monitor and practice and look at our policy through best practices put forth by International Association of Chiefs of Police, through the St. Louis Area Police Chiefs Association, SLAPCA, and it's a constantly evolving and changing type of response based off of active shooters. So in 2011 and moving forward through, the department has participated in the countywide practice of what's called MACTAC, which is Multi-Assault Counterterrorism Action Capabilities. It is an acronym that is designed for active shooter response. And back then, we initially sent our first group of officers for certification in that to become instructors. I was one of them, and I am still currently an active instructor countywide as well as in Webster Groves for active shooter training. Since then, we have trained many officers in this as instructors, and we've trained our entire department in this. We send our officers to annual training on this active shooter response, active killer response. Pardon my, I don't like to call it active shooter. because they don't always use a firearm. Okay, so we call it active killer response. And we train every officer in the department on that annually. Further, we've adopted into our school district and our businesses in town. So any businesses that reach out to us and would like this kind of training, our instructors can go into these businesses and teach them in this MACTAC training. We do a 4E response, which is educate, evade, escape, and engage. And that is what we teach our schools. We teach our businesses in that. And so our instructors who have gone through the MACTAC training also go through certification through a company that instructs them on 4E, which is the civilian response to an active killer incident, right? And so we go in and we do that. Our SROs are in our schools. We have annual training with the school districts every year before the school starts. The 2 weeks prior to the school start, our SROs teach every staff member in the school district this 4E training and teaching them. And so the school districts have adopted their policies as well. As far as private businesses, it's up to that private business whether or not they choose to adopt it. But I can tell you that we have been in many businesses in the city and taught them this as well. And basically, the training for the civilian side of things is to basically teach them. It's an adoption of, many of you have probably heard of the governmental program Run, Hide, Fight. It's an adaptation of that. It's just a different acronym basically, but it's the same thing, Run, Hide, Fight, and teaches them their options of how to survive an active killer scenario. You have the options of running and hiding or fighting back if you have to ultimately to survive. So we take a progressive approach to this. We know it's a very serious thing in society today. And our police department continues to go to training. I was just at a Secret Service training put on maybe 3 weeks ago. And this one dove into the psychological aspect of active killers and what causes them to do what they do. In the event that we can, working with our schools, our private businesses, should there be a pattern or some type of display of behavior that's where we can react to that, maybe we can prevent an active killing from occurring. And so we continuously go to training. We continuously evolve in hopes that we never have to respond, but if we did, we would respond appropriately. So if anybody has any questions for me, and that's a quick nitty-gritty rundown of our training. There's really a lot of in-depth stuff that goes into it that we could talk for hours on. So if anybody has any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will say that my church congregation, we've gone through your training.
Yes.
program at the church, so it's really good. It's extensive, it's complete. And I think it was like a 3 or 4 part session.
Yes. Mhm.
So because of our church and how it's situated with different rooms, they covered every action. I mean, what action we should take in every room. So it is a good program. So
Yes, I actually did the training for city hall staff and city workers in the city. It's been a couple years now. We got shut down with COVID. And I do know now back in 2022, we have talked about it again and doing another training session of it to obviously with new employees and whatnot on board, but just rehashing that training as well. But we are doing it. We believe in it, and we're bringing it to our community. So unfortunately.
So the SROs do they teach all staff members at the school district?
I can't say all,
Okay,
but I can say the majority of them, because
okay,
there is an option, I believe, for staff members to not attend it if they don't want to,
Okay.
type thing. But I do believe it's the majority of the school district members are taught. Yes.
okay. At all levels of school?
Yes.
Elementary,
Yes.
okay. Through high
Yeah, we
school,
do it
so-
at staff development. So
Okay.
it's done at staff development, and it's done prior to the start of the school year. So I know this August, when our SROs are detached back to and reassigned back to the schools, they will teach this to the school district again during the professional development days prior to the start of the school year.
So the other question I have relates to communications that the school district might get through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter, or whatever. And if it's something that arises up to a concern, do they talk to the SRO? Do they contact the Webster Groves Police Department directly? Do they handle an internal? And I guess, Joe, John, that's probably at Webster University as well. If because I know a lot of school districts monitor Facebooks. You're
Yes.
monitoring, the police department monitors various Facebook sites, and you can't monitor it all.
Right.
But how does Webster Groves?
So good question. Let me just clarify. So you're asking if the school district notices something on social media.
Yeah.
How do they bring that to our attention?
Right.
Good question. So also prior to COVID, I attended and several other officers, we would attend a collaborative meeting. Western University may or may not have been a part of that, John. I don't remember, but we would meet with Kirkwood School District, a couple of our parochial schools. We would have Narrows Hall there and Vianney, various other, and we would do a collaborative meeting and discuss all this about communication and whatnot. Because not all of the schools are quite on the same communication, right? Some of our private, more smaller parochial schools may not be there as well. We do have email, things like that, but we do try to reach out to them and give them our contact information. But I will tell you, most of the time, so in the Webster Groves public schools, generally they would contact our SRO first and then bring this to our attention via social media that, hey, we noticed this on there. And then our SRO Groves would then get initiated investigation. Some of our parochial schools, our private schools, I do know Narrows Hall, they contact me, Tricia Crenshaw, who's the principal at Narrows Hall. She contacts me regularly when an issue arises with Narrows Hall about some kind of social media or, hey, we had a problem with a student, and they contact with us. So we do have personal relationship with these schools to reach out to us whenever there is an issue, and we help guide them along the way. And again, try to resolve the situation and or prevent something tragic from happening. So there is communication there. That's how that goes. And I know Webster Youth Public Safety, they are in touch with us on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and one other thing that the university has in place is a behavioral intervention team or a BIT team, and that takes different kinds of formats from campus to campus. But the way it works at Webster is if we get any kind of information that's troubling about a student, we mobilize a 3-person meeting within an hour, someone from public safety, someone from counseling, someone from the dean of students office. And if it's an employee situation, the dean of students office rotates out and human resources rotates in. And we assess what exactly is going on and figuring out real quickly, what do we know about the student? Are they on campus or off? Did they do something threatening? And sometimes that's been advising Webster Groves saying, hey, we've got a situation that's evolving here and this is what we know. But we can mobilize quickly. And a lot of tips come from our faculty. You know, some student writes a paper about an active shooter in a classroom kind of thing. You know, we're going to stop that, slow that down and visit with that student. So I think we've got a good system there, but there have been times when we've reached out to Webster Groves Police saying, here's the situation.
Exactly.
How involved do you need to be? Do you want to be? And then collaborate from there.
You have a similar team at each level of education. The high school have a similar BIT team and that you interact with. Or
I can't say what the high school has on staff.
Yeah.
I do know our asset that we have in place is our SRO. And we have just the one SRO in the high school and middle school full-time. And then they split all of our elementary schools on a part-time basis as needed. So if a situation were to come up with an elementary school student or something, an issue there, one of my SROs from the high school or middle school would respond to that elementary school.
Is there a situation where the police department could engage with, and maybe you do, with the school district to make sure that, let's say, for instance, a particular elementary school has proper lockdown procedures in place?
Oh, absolutely. So we do a review with our entire our school district, including the elementary schools. We've done walkthrough and on-site assessments of their facility, including, their windows, their locks, their PA system, their communication systems, walkie-talkies or telephone or whatnot. And then we give them recommendations. Again, the last time we did that though was prior to COVID. So we haven't done it now in about 2 years, I guess. But prior to COVID, we would do that on a regular basis with our schools.
So it's probably time that it'd be
It's time again. And so as everything is ramping back up, right, it's going again. This obviously was the first school year that came back. We were in touch with Western School District. We just did not do any on-sites this year, but I would anticipate we will be doing them coming in the fall or spring of the next school year coming up. So.
Any other questions?
I don't know if this is the question. It's really just the start of a thought that's kind of, I'm wondering, other than within the schools, and the employees that participate in training, is there some level of communication or education that would help, our general community feel safer or more prepared? Or so this is not well articulated. I really wish Katie were here, being, a trauma therapist. She could really help me maybe tease out what I'm trying to say. But I think there's maybe some little nugget there that maybe outside of our conversations within the PCEB is there, I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe there might be some kind of Q&A at some point that maybe it becomes part of our listening session, but I just think there's something more here. There's just so much shock and fear around what happened. And I think people just don't want to think about it in some ways, but maybe they probably already are. So maybe we can just revisit it later unless someone has thoughts. And John, you dealing with students at the university might have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think that it's a good point. I think that, you could define trauma in any number of ways, but in this kind of situation, it's especially alarming and deep. So I think, the degree to which school districts and universities are prepared to be networked enough to bring in other therapists, other perspectives, to respond to the community, I think is important to do, because that's the aftermath is really where a lot of the damage in very different ways happens, right? So I think that's a good thought. I think that might be something that worth playing, kind of exploring and anticipating. If we know we've got this MACTAC approach for a situation in real time, what's the equivalent MACTAC approach for a mental health trauma kind of point of view?
Or just an individual citizen that doesn't know how to react.
Right.
So if they run across an event like this, what are they supposed to do? And that's what you talked about, the run, hide, fight scenario. But I don't know if the general public, and I think Lexi, that's a really good, I don't know if the general public, the general community would know how to react, how to respond, what to do in that type of situation. So potentially, as we engage with more community members and more community organizations like the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition, okay, the Rotary Club, the business association groups, those kind of groups, if we could maybe sponsor a short presentation about an event, a topic like this, maybe that would be a good thing to do at one of these community group meetings. So,
And another thing you can think of for the PCB is to our small businesses in Webster. They need to know this information because we live in Webster. None of this would happen in Webster, and that's not true. Yeah,
but it can.
It can't. It's not just small business. You might have maybe one employee that's at the store all day long, and they feel comfortable because they live in Webster. So addressing this program with all of the business districts, as a business district, the old Orchard, hey, what can PCEB do to help you to prepare for that type of situation?
we've been wanting to meet with those groups with the similar fashion that we met with the Rotary Club, and we met with the North Webster, and we met with the Alliance for Interracial Dignity, and all the groups that we've met with. They have been on the list to meet with them, and then COVID happened. So,
Okay.
and a lot of them stopped having meetings altogether, and some didn't have Zoom capabilities, so they didn't do that. But they were certainly on the list of organizations that we wanted to talk to. But Lexi, that might be a really good topic to talk with them to see. I think maybe I'm kind of thinking out loud here is have a list of topics that we could present to an organization, and they could pick which one they wanted to learn more about the Webster Groves Police Department. And then we could schedule something where it was actually, we've done an introduction. the Katie's gonna do a piece in the Kirkwood Webster Times. Or the Webster Kirkwood Times. And so hopefully the word will get out that we're around, that we're here. And as we build on that, then maybe we can get organizations to select what topic they would like to learn more about.
I would almost suggest let's get in touch with those commissions. Actually, I'm the liaison to the old Webster Business District. They met this morning. It's about like 11 or 12 of them. And just get something organized with them to see what, and instead of waiting for them to come to us, let's go to them, I think.
If you could possibly provide us with all that contact information, it looks like you have a lot of it.
Well, it tells me who is the council liaison. And what I can do, because one of the things that I'll mention this later, is the council is taking a different approach to the council liaison position, where we will try to be not interfere with your commission, but offer assistance wherever we can. And I can talk to the liaison of the old Orchard Business District to talk to her group, and I can talk to my group, and then there's the Crossroads District. And that
Right.
person, so, and then that can filter back, and then a program can be created, and
Right.
let's give it to them.
Is there a link on any of the main web pages that says for more information or what you think every citizen should know about these situations, where we could even, when we go to these organizations, point them to such a place
We do
and
not,
say, reach out for this? I know you mentioned you don't want
right?
the whole plan circulated necessarily, but is there basic information you want everybody to know? And when we go and they ask about, I want to know more about that, where they can reach out.
Reach out. We currently do not have that on our website, particularly for about an active killer scenario type thing. But we most certainly could work with our
For training for
For
that
training
or
in that,
something, or.
and put a few links to the general, the government advised stuff, which is the run, hide, fight thing, which is a good platform.
It's a good, right.
And it has links to some various little videos you can watch and clips you can watch which would cover just general stuff for the public on what are your options to do during, if you were to, because when I teach this program and I go into our small businesses and I talk to them all about it, I say, this isn't just about your business or your school or whatnot. It's what about if you were shopping? What about if you're in that restaurant and this happens, and then how do you respond to that? And so we could very much, Scott, put that on there, and it would just be some simple links.
Yeah,
And-
I know for.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to
COVID,
reinvent anything.
It's not reinventing, it's just, we're taking the information that's already out there, readily available, just giving the access to people.
Yeah, we're pushing links for COVID all the time and
Right.
work, so
Right.
I know that works.
Yeah,
People
and it just
learn
gives
more
people
and
a place
engage them
to search for that
in
stuff, and they can,
conversation.
at their own leisure, can click on these links and watch those videos and be informed.
And in my church, I'm in charge of the security protocol. So there's an active shooter. Everybody knows the place. We don't want every parishioner trying to direct stuff, so when it's time, I get up, I say what I have to say, I tell the preacher to hush up, and we just go through our process. And we have our same thing for emergency exits and things of that nature. So those are the type of things the organizations can create for themselves. So, I didn't want all of our Christians praying. No, because that causes, okay, I'm getting up, I'm heading out, but we don't want that. It might be best for you to stay where you're.
Well, training could be, you need to stay where you are, crawl under your seat or crawl under the table, whatever. You need to stay put, you need to stay where you are.
Yeah.
That's training in a sense. You're not actively involved in making the decisions in that particular moment, but they know how to respond
Mhm.
and they know what to do. It's kind of like, what do you do in the case of
Tornado drills.
smoke or
we do
fire,
with
tornado
kids.
drills or any, yeah.
Fire drills, tornado drills.
Right.
When we teach this, Emerson can tell you that we talk about that as well.
Right.
For years, we've taught tornado drills, fire
Right,
drills,
we don't want to think about it
etc.
happening, but
that we don't want it to happen, but
Mhm. So if it's okay with you, I can contact the other liaisons on the council.
Yep.
And put that bug in their ear, and that's a nice little project for the PCB to
Yep.
put out there for the community.
Right.
Yeah. I'll do that and, Grace, no.
Okay, excellent.
One other thing I just thought about doing it, everybody should know, and when we push this out and we spread this information to our community about it, all the officers, vast majority of them in St. Louis County are receiving the same training. And so when other officers from other agencies would respond in, God forbid, we would have an incident like that in Webster Groves, just know that all those officers are trained in the same manner that we are. And so the response is the same. It's a countywide response training. So it's just good to know.
Yeah, it's very good.
Captain Burks, does the police department have a communication plan for, or is that kind of what the PCEB is there to help create, as far as, sort of maybe an editorial calendar of what are communications that are timely and maybe resources? We've identified one topic of interest that maybe could be on a website, but my mind zoomed out to the bigger picture of like, how does this fit into a community's understanding of what is safety, what is public safety? And so I wondered if you already have structures set up to do this kind of thing.
If I understand what you're asking, are you asking do we disseminate communications to the community about these types of things? Like, do we have a plan set up for that? Is that what you're asking? Like,
Yeah,
let's
do
say
you have
a
like
traffic safety plan versus an active shooter or active killer plan versus, something like that?
No, I think it's more, I'm thinking of it as a professional communicator. Like, we would have a plan, let's say, as new students matriculate into our program, we know what information they'll need at different times as they start their career as a student. And I work on websites, and so we generally have a plan for, how we structure all of that. So I was just wondering, sort of, what resources does the police department already have as far as a communications plan? Because your policies are internal, and we're in the PCEB, we're privy to more of that information. But I didn't know if you have a communication plan for the public, or if it's more as situations arise, you share information.
Okay, now I believe I understand where you're going with that. We do not have a general communications plan in place to disseminate information just on a scheduled basis to the community. What we do is we do have an email thing through CivicSend or eSends. And so on a situational type of awareness thing, when something were to arise, we would put out a bulletin or something to the communication board that way to get the information out to the public as far as that goes. Now, in the incident where a critical incident were to arise that would require us to contact our schools or something like that, same thing, it's situationally arisen. We would then communicate to our schools, hey, go on to a lockdown. We have a situation where you need to lock down, that kind of thing. Like that. We do not have a general, monthly or a scheduled type communication plan where we put information out.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful context.
Yes.
All right, any other questions on this? Thank you so much.
No problem.
Burks, I appreciate it. Lots of really good information. So tomorrow evening we're co-sponsoring Wesley Bell's presentation. And Katie sent this out by email. It's learn about justice reform. Wesley Bell's the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney. It's tomorrow evening from 7 to 8 p.m. At the Old Community Baptist Church, which is at 238 West Kirkham Avenue. And it does say an RSVP is required, so I have not RSVP. Did you RSVP, Lexi? Yeah.
Yes, I have, and I corresponded with Doug. He said they have a few seats left. So if there are other representatives from the PCEB who want to attend, we can squeeze them in, but technically they've already closed the RSVPs.
Okay.
So, but more could come. He said they have a few seats left.
Okay. I'll just show up and there's no place to sit, I'll stand. It's my own fault.
I will let, Doug told me who to let know, so I will
Yeah.
let them know, make sure you don't have to be standing in the
Yeah,
back.
and
There's Centron.
Centron is also going to be
Centron?
going. Yeah,
Okay,
Centron and me.
good. I will make sure you get on that list.
Thank you so much.
Do you think all of us should try? I mean, I can, but I don't want to
We,
make it packed room, or you think that's enough?
that's
Yeah,
it. I mean, if
Yeah.
if you want to, of course you can, but
Of course.
I think that's
That's enough
probably enough.
representation.
There's,
Okay,
there'll be three of us, so.
okay.
But
Real quick, Lexi, I just wanted to say, we do our weekly crime reports. We do put that out weekly. So
Yeah.
that is a scheduled thing, but that's kind of just letting people know what's been going on crime wise in the city. But as far as disseminating other information on that, it'd be situational still. So
I only remember starting to see that when I started this.
the ECINS,
the ECINS,
Yeah,
ECINS.
I was totally unaware of it till I was on this.
Well, up until
So that's what I think we were talking about.
right,
I
and
don't
up
think
until
I
we
had
went to the Civic Send website where we did that, it was unfortunately, it was an archaic email system, which had to be manually maintained, old emails taken out, new emails put in, etc. And it was kind of an archaic way of communications to where now it's a link on our webpage. And people can just automatically sign up for it. And whenever they decide to no longer receive that communication, they can unsubscribe. So it's no longer, we don't have to manually monitor it anymore. And so now it's so much easier and just more efficient to get that information out. And that does go out weekly. So that could be something we could think about. as
there
well.
is a link on the PCEB webpage or landing page for it as well.
Right.
I had Jen
I'm just-
Starkey,
Yeah.
put the link out,
Yep.
of it, so.
And we do have our Facebook page and our Twitter account, and stuff like that. But again, those are not a scheduled type event thing.
Well, when I talk to somebody and they're wanting to know what, you know,
You
what is, how
point
do you
them to
get
it.
that information? I point them to the PCB landing page and then they can link, they can click on it and it takes them right there and they can sign up for
Sign
it.
up that-
And do you know how many percentage of the community is signed up?
I do not.
I'm just curious
I do
how
not.
much knowledge is there.
I don't have any access to that to see how many
Because you
subscribers
said
we
you could
have.
sign up.
Right. I don't, I can probably find that information out. I'm pretty sure Jenny Starkey could probably get that
Is this
information. for me.
something we need to start promoting, or, you know, or was I just unaware and
Yeah.
more are aware than I thought?
Email Jenny on that.
It is the same, that same report generally gets then published in the
Webster
Webster
Kirkwood Times.
Kirkwood
Kirkwood
Times,
Correct,
That's
In
the
the crime
percentage of
report
the
section.
population that reads that.
correct.
which is
It's
a
probably
very,
decreasing.
it's actually a very large percent. It's
Is
the
it?
largest.
That's what I wanted.
And at some point, we're gonna go through the survey, but in the survey, how do you get communication? That was the number one.
All right.
Way that
Was-
people
was
got
the Kirkwood Times?
communication. Mhm.
All right.
Yep. Number two was Facebook. Number three was Twitter.
Right.
You know,
And
so.
I'm not trying to take what you mean, but there's a lot of other things out there that can be done, you know, for as the Ring doorbell system. You know, there's a blast on it. I'm connected to, I think, about the 25 different ring holders in my area. Hey, somebody's going around opening car doors, somebody's doing that. And they put a blast out, you know, so that's.
There's also the neighborhood, Neighborhood Connect. What is that called?
Not the Facebook.
No, not Facebook. It's another web application thing, Neighborhood Connect or something
Yeah,
like that. But it would require the homeowner to subscribe to that.
Yeah,
Right.
And then they would get.
Yeah, I have Arlo, not Ring.
I think you're talking about next door.
Next door, yes, ma'am, that's it, yes.
yeah.
Next door.
Oh, yeah, somebody said it was awful.
It's awful. It's not worth the headache. It's really got a bad reputation. Really bad.
But next door,
Yep. Next door.
but those is kind of another program that
Right.
PCB can sponsor, regardless if we use next door or not, but. And then simple things is.
Well, I know that you
how to
can
lock your
register,
car door,
you
got
can
the-
register with the
Right.
Western Police Department that you have a video doorbell.
Yes, that we do have that option as well, but you can register your camera systems with us. But that's just letting the police department know that you have a camera system on
Right.
your house. So in the event that we did have a crime that occurred in your area, my detectives and officers could follow up with you to see if, hey, maybe you caught something on video to help us, solve the crime type thing.
My Arlo can see the front doors of 4 houses.
Mine's too. And I can see all
So,
3, 4 different backyards.
Yeah, and that's accessible on the PD page, through our webpage, and you can sign up to just it basically just gives us your information that allows us to know that you have
again,
cameras
that's
on
a
your house.
possibility of putting a link like that on a
On the
PC.
PC.
Well, I
blind.
didn't have a recommended homeowners, if you'd like interacting with this kind of
Right.
system, if you want to install it.
And I think Ring and some of those others, they give discounts for community projects like that. Because- But.
I mean, my entire cul-de-sac is covered by mine, my neighbors, and the
Mhm.
neighbor across the street.
Well, I wish ours was, because we just had vandalism over our whole street
Oh,
and nobody had a video. And that's where maybe we go to the link and find out how to install. So,
No, it's just an excellent community outreach program thing we started.
Yeah, we started that camera program several years ago.
Yep.
Several years ago.
All right, so that event is tomorrow. And then the updates and discussion from board members. So one question Katie asked, who would like to give updates on a regular basis to Jenny Starkey for the website? I don't know, I think that's something that we need to talk about to find out, exactly what, because that could be, a fairly arduous task of trying to get that put together. But I think that maybe a good idea would be to have Jenny come to one of our meetings and present what
yes.
she needs, and explain what she's doing now in her role. And what kind of communication would be helpful. So I think it would be a good idea to have Jenny actually attend a meeting and do a presentation. And then Lexi, do you have any follow-up with the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition?
No, I haven't received any more
Okay.
communication from members there. I think it was a good experience, but I left it thinking, wow, there's probably a better structure for how to run that. So I assigned myself the task of researching, how do you run a listening session? And how can you collect, we have such a diverse and large community and all different ages and interests, and well, we could be meeting with groups forever and we'd never catch them all. So that's why I'm trying to think, more,
Right.
what are some other ways
Right.
to connect with people?
I promise you, I won't be talking as much in other meetings, but. The meeting with the Northwestern Neighborhood Coalition, it was great, and I'm on the board there. And I would have rather seen conversation on how we can help the neighborhood. It appears to me, from what I remember listening, is that they were bringing their personal problems to that meeting. What are you gonna do about the fireworks? Well, I mean, that's not what you guys were there for. How can we enhance or engage the residents in Northwestern a little bit better? But I don't think you really got that. I think you got a lot of complaints.
Well, that was to the police officer that was present, not to us.
Well, still, they connected.
Yeah.
As soon as they heard, police engagement, well, we're gonna, when I started hearing about the topics about, shooting off fireworks and people driving fast on the street, that's more of the community police officer role versus the PCEB.
But that's what people are interested in. I mean, quite honestly, people are interested. Does the trash get picked up when it's supposed to? Is my neighborhood being covered properly by the police department?
Mhm.
Is my car safe in the driveway? That's what people are interested in our community, so it would make sense that they would ask those types of questions.
Yeah, but fulfilling the purpose of the PCEB.
I understand, but what is I mean, we can get into that discussion, but, we have one attendee at this meeting right now. That's outside of this group.
And that's a law enforcement officer.
Oh, so we have 0 people from outside of this group, and we publish when our meetings are. And
that's the same for all commissions.
that's the same for all commissions,
Yeah.
so.
But I think once you get your name out there, here's a project that the PCB is sponsoring, we're sponsoring XYZ. We're going out to the public for you to do this, then I think you'll start getting a little bit more interest in it. That's just me. The pandemic really kind of stopped the growth of the PCB where it should be going. But I think you have a great opportunity to just get the word out there. And just some of what they say, the low hanging fruit would be very productive in the community.
Well, and that's why I was, wanting to engage in a community group to say, okay, what are you interested in hearing? What information are you interested in receiving from the Webster Groves Police Department or from the Police Community Engagement Board?
And that's an important question, because the question asks, well, how can I make my neighborhood safer? What can I work with you to make my neighborhood safe? I mean, and so then the dialogue starts happening back and forth. Then that's the community engagement you're looking for, not just, I want you to do this and I want you to do this.
That's exactly right. Yep, that's
That's
exactly
how you can partner to get all that done.
right. Right. But you're right, Lexi, if you look at all the different groups, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many different groups that it could be years before we could meet with all of them. So, and that's why we were picking certain groups that would get better coverage initially. I mean, Scott met with, we had a session with Webster University students that was incredibly powerful. And it was more of a listening session for the university students.
Sure, and it brought up broader issues. So though it was specific complaints, I felt it also then brought up bigger issues that we wanted to talk about. So that's what I think a listening session should be in my mind. Having left that session, it felt instructive of what it should be. I still think we're suffering from few of the population knowing we exist.
How long did you have for that session, Scott?
Well, I had a pre-session for about an hour and a half, which I didn't realize was going to be, and I was on my own. It became a bigger thing than I had realized. And then I think the session itself was a couple hours.
Yeah.
And we pushed the limits of that. And it was at a nice time. I think it was around between 3 and 5 or somewhere around there, or something of that nature, where people were willing to, especially a university crowd, that's a good time, but there's different times in different organizations, I'm sure.
Right. And with the Webster Neighbor Coalition, we just had like a 15-minute, allocation. At least initially, that's what they had assigned for it. So it really wasn't sufficient time to listen, but more to I guess, open the door to what future engagements might look like. So.
And I would let you know on July 23rd, the Webster Rock Hill Ministries, we're having a health fair at Ivy Park Park. We're going to have healthcare professionals there. We're going to be giving away boxes of food. So, that's another opportunity for PCB to, be there and display. I'm sure our SRO that we know going to be there. So, I mean, that's another opportunity. And going, there's a reason why they want a health professional on this board, because how do you as a health professional reach out to the community? We're having, so I can't think of the name of the hospital now. St. Mary's, is that a hospital? St. Mary's, they're gonna have their division there, taking blood pressures, doing temperatures and all that good stuff. We have another vendor there to help individuals with the social security. If they have other benefits they can apply for. Humana's gonna be there, grilling hot dogs and hamburgers. All community.
What time is that, Emerson?
We probably gonna do it from probably 10 to 2, something of that nature. I can get you more information on it. And that's a community event. Yeah. And I think like Paul, I think he's on the psychology side of, what can he, what do you know he can offer to the community? It's not his services, but services that might be.
Right.
needed. Yeah,
All picture.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right. So I know Lexi, you're on the list to talk about a subcommittee for calendar of events, community happenings, which is exactly that's a segue of what Emerson just said. There's an event coming up. And so how I guess you were suggesting doing what?
I was suggesting that we need to have a calendar, and not only should we identify opportunities where we could be invited to just be present and, engage with whatever, things like the Webster Rock Hill Ministries event coming up, but also we have quite a few responsibilities now delineated in the ordinance. And if we don't get them on the calendar and figure out what steps we've got to take to finish them, we won't get it done. So I wanted to start working on that. I don't know that it's necessarily something that has to be, we formally get a group of people together, but like I was even thinking, could we just use a Google Calendar? I don't think we'd be putting anything in it that's necessarily, requires a lot of security. But I wanted to raise that as a suggestion with the group that it might be helpful to do and volunteer to help getting that going. And if there's, other people that maybe want to add in things or come up, maybe it's something that we spend 10 minutes each meeting to take a look at what's coming up in the calendar once we have it put together. I'm very into planning because that's what I've got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that needs to be like a particular line item, not a sub item like this on our next meeting agenda.
Yes.
That I wanted to try to put it on this time, and it's like there's nobody gonna be here. So
Right.
it's like let's maybe I don't know if July is gonna be a good time to do it because we've got summer vacations and things like that all over again in July. So
Yeah.
but I think I agree with you. I think it needs to continue to be on the agenda until some action is taken, quite honestly.
It would be nice if we had a shared calendar on the side for all of us, that you put those things on, and that maybe we could sign up like I do at work.
So as liaison, I'll check with the city to see what they can offer you as a calendar, because they're transferring or going over to Microsoft.
Outlook.
365
Yeah,
Outlook.
that's how I do it at work. Outlook.
so
and we have a
I'll see
shared
if-
office calendar.
If we can get a shared calendar just for PCB. And then any member can get into it.
So, yeah, I mean, I just don't need another new calendar. I have 4 calendars and 7 emails that I have to monitor. So, I don't need another one.
Yeah, that's a issue. But maybe we could have the calendar that we review at the meeting briefly
Yes.
as a regular meeting event.
Yep.
And we say, here are the coming events, like Lexi was saying, in the coming month. Anybody want to sign up for A, B, or C?
Yeah.
And then type our name in there. Scott's going to this.
I mean, like one item, we have to do a report on what we accomplished this year. So, I mean, that's one thing that's very specific in the ordinance. We have to have at least, I think, 2 listening sessions.
Yep.
So, I mean, there is a whole, and Lexi's right, there's a whole list of things that we're supposed to accomplish during this year. And I agree. So I think that needs to go on the agenda.
So
guys have all set up Gmail accounts just for
Yes.
this.
not everyone has
Oh, I-
set that up
Oh, okay, so because you could just do
I
a
add-
Google account or a Google Calendar.
on your
that each
Gmail.
One of you guys could add to through
Your-
your Gmail, and then it wouldn't be an additional calendar if you're already doing a Google Calendar. It'd just be another
No, that's
item
good.
on your calendar.
I know Lexi has, and John, that's one thing that we're recommending. Is that you just set up, like mine is kspceb@gmail.com. And you can set up a Gmail account just for PCEB. Because of sunshine law, if we communicate with your regular email. And anyone wants to access that, they could possibly ask to access your entire email.
Yeah.
Your
It's highly
personal
recommended.
email.
Yeah, and
So-
that's right. I said, it might be better just to have a city email address, because as long as Katie is on it.
We can't do that.
I don't recall what the reason was, but they had a very specific reason why it couldn't be.
There's limited
city
bandwidth.
Webster Groves
So
email address.
That was probably then. Actually, there's.
Emerson, I don't want another email.
Yeah, oh no, I'm just saying,
I mean,
it's not an email.
emails that
If you know, here's the calendar, let me see what's going on, you just go out to that calendar and look.
So let's try to figure it out. I'm not a big fond of Google Calendar, but it's, if it works for everybody, then I think that is potentially a method. Because I don't want to mix this with my business. So
Mhm.
so I think that's a possibility.
I really like Emerson's suggestion though, and it may even be that there's such a calendar that, we could have events that are public and are actually, visible to the public from the PCEB site. And there might be things that are private that are our own internal things. So I'd really be interested in what the City Hall's resources could support with their move to the new website platform and potentially Microsoft Outlook for email and such. So
Okay, I mean, I don't have a problem looking into that, but again, that would be different than I would replace my Casey. I would replace my Gmail with that one, so.
oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking, so I thought that we all still needed to have our own personal emails where we're receiving correspondence from in the group. I was thinking more of a shared calendar for the PCEB. So,
Well, my request of the city is that this is what PCB is looking for. They're looking for a shared calendar that they can use for public and private. Then they'll come back and say, this is what we can offer you guys. I said, that as far as I'm gonna take it, just say, this is what they're needing to do now.
Okay. Yeah, personally, I can't add another calendar in my life, so.
Oh, me neither. I got four.
So, so, anyway, yeah, I think that's something that we can look into. As Katie said, the Webster Kirkwood Times article's in process and it's supposed to come out in July. And then, do we have any additional updates? So I think our next agenda items really need to be communication. And both internally and externally, and setting up a method to start reviewing and assigning what the PCB needs to be doing for the next 6 months or so. So.
Yep.
I think that's what we should discuss the next time, so in my opinion. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Can't vote on it, but.
A lot of nods, yes.
All right, any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn? We don't even have to do that.
Oh, now we will say one more thing, that the there's a subcommittee on the council and on that committee, we are streamlining the volunteer process. Where, you know, it used to be, you put an application in the month of January, maybe if there's something in April, if that person was selected or not. We're putting some things in place where that's a very fast process. And I think we only have maybe about four or five different people on commissions that we need to fill. I mean, since we started kind of behind the scenes, soliciting people, like I solicit Paul. I mean, I work with Paul all the time at the ministry, and I know his background, so I solicit him. So that's what we're gonna do, just go out and look for people, bring them in so we can fill all these commissions. So,
It's great to have them full, but we need people to show up.
well, that's the second part. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but that's a responsibility for the member.
Yeah, and that's it, you know, and you have the time available to dedicate.
If you don't, then you shouldn't be in it. So. All right, awesome. John, it was great to meet you. I
Yeah,
think
nice
we've
meeting you.
met. I am almost 100% sure that we have met.
There's a good chance, I think.
There's
Isn't it?
probably a good chance. I got my MBA at Webster University in 1996.
Okay.
So I was there all the time, but you weren't quite there yet.
I got there summer 2000.
Yeah. So
Close enough. We'll run it up. Close enough.
close enough. All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good to meet everybody.
Good night.
All right. Thank you for all your input.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, keep talking.
And